Hello everybody. I am here today to review SimCity, variously known as SimCity 5 or SimCity 2013. We're going to take a look at this game and determine how good or bad it is, and whether you should consider buying it. Before we jump in, I want to give a little bit of my history with SimCity. My first experience with the franchise was playing SimCity 2000 at my friend's house somewhere in suburban Chicago in 1995. The game fascinated me and I was hooked on it for many years. I was amazed with how much you could do. You could edit your own maps and build large and, for the standards of the day, very realistic looking cities. The isometric perspective and the ability to have terrain at different elevations was quite novel at the time. Without exaggerating, I probably made over 1,000 cities in the time spanning between 1995 and 2005 when I finally stopped playing. I remember long before SimCity 4's region feature, I used to make my own regions by meticulously marking down roads, water, and elevation changes on the edge of the map and replicating them on the next map. I created a region with more than 50 cities in this way. In 1999, I played SimCity 3000 for the first time. The game was a general improvement to SimCity 2000. The graphics were a lot more realistic, the gameplay options were deeper, and you had the option of building on gigantic maps where even the wildest fantasies of city creation could become possible. The terrain editing tools were easy and intuitive, and I used to make intricate patterns of land and water, raising the land value and making my cities look nice at the same time. I remember being able to make beautiful cities filled with redwood trees, huge metropolises with skyscrapers of astronomical value, and just generally awesome looking neighborhoods. I was a little late to the party with SimCity 4, but when I finally played it in 2007, I finally put SimCity 2000 and 3000 away for good. I also looked like this. Can we get that out of there? Thanks. SimCity 4 was almost everything I had dreamed of in a city simulation game. Not only did they preserve the huge city size from SimCity 3000, but the regions I had so meticulously created on paper with SimCity 2000 became a reality with SimCity 4. Now I could finally create sprawling metropolitan areas that stretched miles with advanced highway and rail systems. People even commuted between the cities to work, adding another level of realism to the game. It was a little buggy, but it still worked. In addition to that, the number of options for roads and highways you got with the Rush Hour expansion was awesome, and an active modding community that created things such as the Network add-on mod only gave more options. This is a game that came out in 2003 and still looks good to this day. It did have its flaws. The original pathfinding system for commuters was a bit buggy, and sometimes the demand for certain industries was not what you'd expect, but overall it was a great game. My only complaint is that it did not have curved roads, but that's a minor point. So when we heard that EA was making a new SimCity game, all of us old SimCity hands were excited. It's been 10 years since SimCity 4. With all the technological advances in that time, we had no doubt that this game would be amazing. We wondered how huge the city was going to be, how realistic the buildings were going to be, and what the depth of the simulation would feel like. And when we heard that every car on the road would correspond to an actual sim in the city that had a house and a job, we were very optimistic. So we waited for March 2013 to come around with bated breath to see what this game would be like. So how did this game live up to our expectations and the reputations that the franchise Maxis and EA have spent 25 years cultivating? And how does it stand on its own as a game for people who have never played a city simulation game before? Well, I'll sum it up for you. This is the fucking Star Wars prequels of gaming! They fed us complete and utter shit! This is the proof that Jesus died in vain and the sacrifices of our troops have amounted to nothing. I can't believe something this assy has been allowed to exist. So what's wrong with this game? What's right with it? We're not even going to get into the launch of the game, which was so horrendous that it made the rollout of the Obamacare website look flawless by comparison. Even when you could get the game to work, it barely worked. Why does a city building simulation have to be always online? I know multiplayer was a neat concept for SimCity, but it should have been optional. You should have been given the option to make a region on your own or with other people. Even StarCraft has a single player option for when you want to play on your own. And by the way, I've seen better cities created around an Artosis pylon than I've seen in this piece of shit game. And let's talk about the regions. First of all, the cutesy style of this game makes my insides curl. It's a huge step back from the growing realism that we've seen in the last 3 installments of this game. And don't accuse me of being a manly man who just isn't in touch with my feminine side. I'm a fucking brony! I appreciate cuteness, but this kind of game shouldn't be cute. And it doesn't even do cute well. Even Pinkie fucking Pie wouldn't play this game. And let's compare this region to a SimCity 4 region. In SimCity 4, the regions were huge, didn't contain any gaps, and contained city plots of 3 different sizes. In SimCity 2013, not only is the region a lot smaller, but look how little room the cities take up. They are just little squares placed on the map with nothing going on between them except a highway you are not allowed to edit. What the shit is this? This is the stupidest thing I've seen in my life. Miley Cyrus twerking looks better than this shitty region. And by making that joke, I've pretty much ensured that this review is going to be forever dated in 2013. Oh well, so be it. Once we click on the city, we see the biggest and most fundamental flaw with this game. The cities are fucking tiny! They're smaller than the smallest city size of SimCity 4. After getting progressively bigger and bigger for the last 3 installments, the cities are now scarcely bigger than a neighborhood in The Sims. How are you supposed to create a city of any size on such a tiny plot? Granted, there are some people out there who have made the best of it and have made decent looking cities, but you just feel so restricted on a square of this size. I've heard all sorts of excuses, mostly about the Glassbox engine and how it couldn't simulate anything larger. Well, if that's the problem, then fuck your engine. If a game I played in 1995 on a Windows 3.1 computer with a 33 MHz processor and a 400 MB hard drive can create bigger cities in your modern game, there's a fucking problem. Just look at how small these cities are. And the land just keeps going beyond the cities just to tease you. Like, you'd like to build out here, wouldn't you, fucker? Wouldn't you? Well, you can't. And why do so many games display endless plains at the edge of your map? Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 is guilty of the same thing. If you're not going to render anything interesting outside the boundaries, just have it cut off at the edge, like in SimCity 4 or Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. We understand that it's not a square floating in space because we know the region continues, and displaying it this way is a convention. Even before we had regions, we knew that the world continued beyond the edge of the map because it made more fucking sense than it didn't. With the combination of tiny map sizes and separate squares with only 1 or at most 2 ways to get in, we realize what this is. A village simulator. A neighborhood simulator. This is a fucking mobile phone app. Something that you should download from the iPhone store for $5. Not a PC game that you should have to pay $80 for on release. And we'll get to that in a moment, believe me. You might be thinking, though, that a casual gamer should be able to enjoy this. That it would be at least fun for them. Well, let me show you how this game fails on even that account. The simulation in this game is fucking crippled. The Sims in the game aren't actually assigned to a house. They randomly appear at whatever house or job that is nearest, causing there to be employment problems and housing shortages when there is plenty of housing and jobs available. Also, at least in the beginning, you could build an entire residential city and they would have no problems with jobs. It would just be fine. Not to mention, Sims are perfectly happy living next to a toxic waste dump. Maybe that's where the developers of this game grew up and it reminds them of their childhood. Apart from these problems, the traffic is an utter disaster. Sure, there were traffic bugs in the SimCity 4, but this goes far beyond the problems of that game. In the early stages of the game, you could not make 4-way intersections without traffic becoming gridlocked throughout your city, and with the broken pathing of poorly simulated citizens, the jams were never cleared up. Updates made this marginally better, but traffic was still fundamentally broken. And how did they proceed to try and fix it? Fucking Airship DLC! There is no greater sign that they have given up on trying to fix the problem of traffic than by making you buy a DLC that just makes everything fucking fly! Because, you know, Zeppelins have totally been a thing over the last several decades in this world. Oh, I wish we were talking about that Zeppelin. Anything but this shit. Watching your traffic burn to the fucking ground because your fire trucks are stuck in a traffic jam that is never going to clear up. You can't just program the cars to get out of the way. They did in the SimCity 4U drive-in missions. Sort of. Okay, bad example. But this is bullshit! Why does this have to happen? And is there really no way to fix it other than fucking airships? Why should I pay extra money for a bullshit, half-assed fix to a game I already bought for $80? Yeah, that's right, I spent $80 for this piece of shit. Because I got the European Buildings DLC too, you know? Because I thought it was going to be good! That's $80 I could have spent on something else. Let's talk about this for a minute. What could I have bought for $80 other than this? I could have bought 16 $5 footlongs from Subway. That's 16 feet of tasty goodness. I could drive into New York through the Holland Tunnel 6 times and still have $3 left over. I could subscribe to Day 9 TV for myself and 15 of my closest friends. I could have bought 2 polo shirts, a pair of khakis, and 6 undershirts from Kohl's with a 30% off coupon and still had enough money left for tacos afterwards. I could have paid for a decent dinner for a family of 4 and had enough money left over to give to the cute waitress as a big tip so that she would love me. I could have bought 3 bottles of Jack Daniel's No. 7 brand Tennessee whiskey, which I had to buy anyway just to be able to cope with this shitty game. So why did I spend $80 on this game? Because I thought that the company that brought me a game franchise I had enjoyed for 18 years would create a game that was at least tolerable. EA was relying off the good reputations of the SimCity franchise to make a quick buck off people in their 20s and 30s who grew up with the older SimCity titles, as well as the gullibility of the younger gamers and the more casual gamers. To rip off the angry video game nerd, which I assure you I have not done under any other point in this review, they made a quick buck with this shitload of fuck. They rushed out a product without testing to make sure everything really worked, without enough servers to handle the always online gameplay, and even when you could get it to work, it was still a piece of shit game. This game raped my childhood just as much as Jar Jar Binks, pod racing, and the rest of the shit in the Star Wars prequels did. This confirms to me more than anything else that the 80s and 90s are gone and are never coming back. Things will never be as fun, as cool, or as interesting as they were then. We'll never have dollar gasoline again. MTV will never play music again. You'll never enjoy air travel again. These awesome wooden playgrounds will never be built again. The Twin Towers will never return. Star Wars sucks. Congress sucks. We'll be on our phones for the rest of our lives, and there will never be another fucking SimCity game that is worth fucking playing! Looks like I need to go get some more Jack Daniels. The final score for SimCity 2013 is Jar Jar Binks out of 10. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go shut my balls in the oven and watch The Phantom Menace.